running our local government. Well, it's not just our local government, it's the state government, and we are going to get to the bottom of who these people are and how many people have been in the justice system, which I don't know how it could be called the justice system, because this is a rigged system against the citizens of this country and this state. And what they're doing is they're using us, the people, as logs that they throw on a fire to keep themselves eating. We are just fuel for their economy, which when I first started this program 3 years ago, I used to say that the criminal justice system in the United States is a $3 trillion a year industry. Well, when I ended my program at the beginning of this summer, it became a $5 trillion industry. So we have a big problem, and I'm tired of the citizens of this country being used as fuel to fire a corrupt criminal justice system. It's time that we do something about it. Stand up, get more people to stand up. I have a special guest that I've been introduced to a few weeks ago, and when he starts talking, you better sit down, hang on, and pay attention, because all our lives are in danger by a corrupt criminal enterprise that runs the state of Nevada, and Nye County is nowhere near any part of being good. They are part of this horrendous system, and I talked about a shadow government, and we're going to show tonight who the shadow government is, which is like a third level of government, a fourth level of government that are controlling the other levels that are legitimately here but not being used for a legitimate purpose. So without wasting any more time, because this is very important and it's not even going to be enough to talk about this hour, my guest, Mr. Walters, will be here for numerous weeks to get this out there. So take it away.
Thank you, Anthony. First, I'd like your listeners to know that my name is Gary Walters. I came to Nevada 10 years ago with a dream like everybody else to settle here and to do some exciting things and to commence with starting a business. Unfortunately, I got around a group of what we call grifters. These were people in high-powered places and high positions, well-known people, and they proceeded to get me into situations that involved real estate and all types of forgeries and robo-signing and things like this. Well, as a result, some of these high-powered people, they decided to get together, and they would conjure up a way in which they would get some of their police friends and some of their DA friends and a judge to send me to prison for crimes I didn't commit. That being said, I had a trial on February 8th, and I was charged and convicted by a deliberately innocent blinded jury. And I was given as worse as in essence of a death sentence, 28 years to 64 years for forgery of real estate deeds and filing of false instruments with the Clark County Recorder's Office. First of all, I have never ever been to the Clark County Recorder's Office, nor could I ever tell anybody how to get there. But I was convicted of these things. I was given 17 counts and given essentially as worse as a murdered person who committed murder. I was sentenced to 28 years to 64 years. In my quest to pursue my actual innocence, I started doing research work when I was sent to Southern Desert Correctional Center, which is a prison. There's really nothing correctional about the place, but that's what they call it. While I was there, I was able to study and research law and understand case law and to read law dictionaries and read publications. And I essentially became pretty good as an inmate advocate. And I started helping others that I felt was there on actual innocence or signed coerced plea agreements, talked into them by their attorneys. once you go to court and you've never been through this process, you believe in your lawyer, you believe in the judicial system, you believe everything works, but then later when you find out how bad you got the shaft when you get to prison, you realize that your only combativeness is to procedurally allow yourself not to be time barred by filing writs of habeas corpus, notice of appeals, and various writs of that nature. So after being convicted on February 7th of 2008, after coming out of what's called the fish tank at High Desert State Prison, I was sent to Southern Desert Correctional Center. And there I was able to work through the level process to gain access to the law library. While in the law library, I was able to start reading books and all, and then later came the LexisNexis system, which was a computerized system that would give the inmate access.
Before you go any further, I just want to let everybody know that Vincent Valerio is on the phone from New York City.
Yes.
And he works for the Department of Investigation for the city of New York. Vinny, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, good. Just in case you have any questions, you could ask that question. So I got you live on the air by phone, okay? I'm sorry, go ahead, Gary.
So through this process, I maintained that I would not allow myself to become procedurally barred or any claims of that nature by the state or by the DA or by the Attorney General's office who files oppositions against you to try and disrupt you from obtaining fair justice. Particularly if you feel that you've been wrong, I encourage everybody to fight for their life and liberty, because that's really all you have in your life, and that is significant. But during the course of that, I stumbled across, and I'd been involved in some political stuff back in Indiana, so a lot of this became natural to me. I found that during the course of through the years that I was incarcerated, first of all, it took me 8.5 years to get the Nevada Supreme Court, once they affirmed my conviction, to reverse and remand it. Now, only half of 1% ever gets that done in the state of Nevada, and for an inmate to do that is a big accomplishment because it's never heard of. It's very rare. And I was able to get the Nevada Supreme Court to look at my ex parte memorandums and the filing of the petitions that I filed. After lawyers couldn't get it done, I was able to get the Nevada Supreme Court on July 15th of 2011 to reverse and remand my case back to the district court for further proceedings. During the course of that, I realized I couldn't afford to go back in front of the same judge that had deprived me of a fair and impartial trial, Michael B. Villani, Judge Villani, Department 17. And I'm going to mention names because I don't mention the truth.
That's what we do here.
And you're going to hear about everybody involved, and I think your listeners are about to become shocked at the conscience of all this. So anyway, in proceeding to get a reversal, I had been on a reversal for over 5 years to get justice. They took me off calendar, but during that time, I had sued and created a conflict with Michael P. Villani, the judge, and I turned him into the Ethics Judicial Commission. I can't elaborate on the complaint itself, but the Judicial Commission, unless it's more political about some judge rubbing having a bailiff or somebody rub your feet, or a misuse of a campaign money, they'll suffer the outage, of being ousted or have to be thrown off the bench. But for an ordinary citizen to come at a judgeship, it's very hard to get the Ethics Judicial Commission to do anything. They're all in bed. It's the good old boys all in bed together. And they send you the confidentialities, and you can't talk about certain things, and we're going to investigate this and all that. It really is a bunch of futile crap, and that's what it is. So I was able, though, with the federal lawsuit that I filed against Judge Villani, I was able to get him to recuse himself. Now, mind you, I had a lawyer that was sitting in the audience at the court the day I was being sentenced, and he made a statement to me that he thought he was attending a lynching. And you could see how friendly the judge and the DA was with each other. Turns out they just live down the street from each other and they hang out together. However, that's beside this point, and we're not going to make an issue of that.
Right.
But I was able to get a reverse and remand. So they appointed me a man named Judge Douglas Herndon in Department 3. Automatically, without even looking at my writ of habeas corpus, my petition of habeas corpus, and my ex parte memorandums and all the evidence, Judge Herndon flat denied my petition, stating no reason. I appealed that decision. I went back to the Nevada Supreme Court. They reversed and remanded in my favor and ordered Judge Herndon to appoint me counsel and to hold an evidentiary hearing. Well, Drew Christensen in Clark County works for the city manager's office, and he's the one that appoints all the counsel for indigent people or people that need representation. So he appointed a man named Joshua Tomczyk. Joshua Tomczyk is a former senior deputy DA out of Clark County, and who has a private practice under Holland and Tomczyk. Joshua Tomczyk confirmed his appointment of counsel. They took me off calendar for 2 years, for whatever reason, who knows. Well, then I started getting a little frustrated, and I wrote letters to Mr. Tomczyk saying that I find myself hinging on the liberty and freedom of a pregnant paralegal woman doing my work, I found out. And he wrote me back and he advised me that I should be patient and be fortunate that I have 2 lawyers paid by the state working on my case. And I should consider myself very fortunate. And that the pregnant paralegal woman I was referring to was head of the, formerly for years, the post-conviction section of the DA's office in Clark County. So I should consider myself very fortunate. Well, through the course of that, I tried to tone down and become more humble toward the appointed attorney. On February 9th, 5 years plus later of this year, we finally had an evidentiary hearing. And at the evidentiary hearing, it was the most remarkable thing I've ever seen in my life. And certainly it can't possibly be legal. And here's what happened. I got on the witness stand and I testified. Then they brought the original DA named Eric Jorgensen in. He testified. And one of his remarks was, he said, you know, I've done thousands of cases since Mr. Walters' case. But what I find remarkable about Mr. Walters' case, most of the victims are his friends and they don't think they're victims at all. It was the state that thought Mr. Walters had victimized him. It was the state, and part of that state, part of those DAs were associated with a man named David Amsbury, who was an attorney who hung himself in Sacramento, who was involved in one of the biggest HOA scams in the state of Nevada. Him and Nancy Quam, she OD'd in the bathtub. Lieutenant Chris Van Cleef blew his brains out. Now these are all the people that formulated around this detective named Joe Kelly, and all these guys that decided that they're going to bury me because I sued them all in federal court for RICO racketeering.
This Kelly is Metro?
Yes, he's no longer. He's been asked to leave by the one of the task force within Metro.
Okay.
Internal Affairs, excuse me. They found problems.
Oh, wait, I think, Vinny, are you trying to talk? Vinny?
Yeah, Gary?
Yes, sir.
Quick question. You just mentioned RICO and the Metro Vegas Police Department.
Yes.
Were you going to sue them civilly, utilizing the RICO statute?
I am now. I had sued several people under the racketeering. I'll tell you about this. When I got involved with some of these people, they sold me some homes out on Plantea Court in Las Vegas. They had taken, David Ansbury had gone overseas with a lady named Luisa Mondanito. She was a Filipino lady. And they had laundried $100 million of Ferdinand Marcos's, the Filipino stolen money through Ferdinand Marcos and Mernaldo Marcos. And they put it in the bank in the Netherlands Antilles. It came from Far East Bank into Bank of America, and I have these documents. They wish I didn't. And then it went from the Bank of America to Downtown Bank of America, Las Vegas. And they took that money, and they went out here and they built all these $1 million homes around Plantea Court. And then they went over to Canyon Gate and they built all these multi-million dollar homes. Okay? So when I found out they were laundering the money, what I did was I sued all of them, named them in federal court and under federal judge Peggy Lean. Peggy Lean was very lenient with me and allowed me as a pro se litigant to push forward because I had hired Mark Hutchison's law firm, who happens to be the lieutenant governor now, and I paid him a substantial amount of money. And later, he's represented a whole bunch of other people that I sued. I don't know how he can wear all these conflicts of interest, but he did. Now he's a lieutenant governor. But at any rate, he kind of dropped the ball on me, so I was on my own. Well,
I have a question.
yes,
The name of the federal court judge is Peggy Lean.
that is correct.
That is the judge on my federal complaint.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, she was very lenient with me, and then what happened was, here I am, and they arrested me. They charged me with these 17 counts of real estate forgery. I've never forged nobody's name to anything. But what they did, they sold me these homes, and they created these phony bank loans under L&M Investments, Inc. Now, in 1996, L&M Investments, Inc. was revoked under Dean Heller, who's now Senator Dean Heller. Now, later, it became permanently revoked in 2001 underneath, guess who? Ross Miller.
Ross Miller, right.
All right, now he permanently revoked them. So I stopped payment on 2 checks of $25,000 apiece. I can validate I had the money in the bank. I had already given these people $180,000 for this home in 1804 Plantea Court. They had this black lady named Sharon Scarrera. She was their real estate agent. She's actually the one that's notorious that did a lot of the forgery. She's doing time now in the federal penitentiary. She got 20 years for that. Well, she even stole my identity and forged my name without me knowing it. But she got in an argument with this Filipino lady in the front yard, and I listened to all this stuff where she says, you don't give me my fees, I'm going to tell on you about laundering all this money for Dan Marcus's and the Bank of America. So now I'm hearing all this, and I'm taking it all in, and I'm taking notes. Well, they leave a lot of their corporate records in the garage of the house that I took over, which belonged to this Filipino lady. And they were making these phony front loans, Bank of America was, under L&M Investments, and turning right around, and then she was selling the houses to people like me. Now, she sold it to me under L&M Investments, and David Ansberry did all of her corporate work, and he's the one that set up all the money laundering scheme.
So they're selling houses through a corporation that's already dead.
It's permanently revoked.
Permanently
Now,
revoked.
I got 2 4 to 10 year sentences for that, which, if the Secretary of State and the Division of Corporations of the Secretary of State Enforcement would have done their homework, Luisa Mondanito should have been arrested and brought in. All my money should have been returned to me, and the whole business transaction unwound. But they tried to say...
I got a question. I have a question.
Go ahead.
They sold all these houses, Gary, right?
Yes.
Now, was there a notary public at these sales?
Oh, yeah, you wouldn't believe it. They stole notary seals, and they used notary seals, and they did robo seals. And I got the blame for that, too.
You know, Vin, I don't know if you heard it because the phone kept cutting out, but there was stuff involved here. Remember when all these people from the HOAs were killing themselves and hanging themselves?
Yeah.
Okay, this is all part of that. And
This was all part and parcel with that?
and what this
Absolutely.
looks like to me is that Gary is a person that didn't know what was going on. He wasn't part of it, so they put him in jail to lock him away to shut him up.
That's exactly what they did.
What
They
I'm,
gave me
what
a
I'm
death sentence.
curious about, Gary, is, and maybe you can explain, why wasn't this in front of the U.S. Attorney for prosecution?
Well, at the time, you're referring to Daniel Bogdan and Gregory Dam, and they were all involved in chasing after guys doing penny stocks like Jacoby and Cook and all those guys, and Sean Hackman. They were chasing down all kinds of stock securities deals rather than paying attention to real estate scams.
Vinny, that's the guy that I was in, we sent the letter to. Remember we sent that letter to him about what was going on in Nye County? He didn't want to know anything.
Yep, that's interesting.
Well, he hangs out with the good old boys too, so he's a pick and chooser. And the thing of it is, I sued them all in federal court and named them under federal racketeering in the federal RICO. Well, they turned around and they went and got their police buddies and everybody, and they raided me. They broke in my home. They arrested me. They charged me for real estate forgery, filing of false instruments, and theft, and attempted theft. I have never stolen anything from
Sounds like
anybody.
they had warrants.
Now, I give these people...
Vinny's asking if they had warrants. Yeah, they came in with
No, they
warrants.
never showed no warrants.
They never showed
No,
no warrants.
and I asked for warrants, and they couldn't produce them. They never showed me.
Well,
They just
should
said they
have
had
produced
them.
in court.
Did they produce the warrant? He's one of those.
No.
They didn't produce them in court either.
No. And never produced who the judge was even signed the warrant. So the next thing you know,
Was your attorney? Is your attorney a real attorney?
oh, let me tell you about him. It turns out that my trial attorney was being prosecuted at the same time as my trial for 4 felony DUIs, a gun, and a bag of meth, and he had 2 prior convictions, one in San Bernardino and one in Henderson, Nevada for DUI. Now, what's most remarkable about all this, he makes him a sweetheart deal, 16 to 48 months suspended. But see, he kept drinking and driving and doing drugs and stuff, so finally Judge Kathy Hardcastle put his fanny in prison. Well, I come out of my old cell. Anyway, they convicted me. We'll go back to this. They convicted me on all these counts. And it turns out that David Amsbury's wife was a former senior deputy DA, so I had the cards stacked against me under Dave Rogers. Now, he's the DA, and they made him leave later on.
The way this looks is if they shut you up and put you in jail, they turn around and there's nobody out there that could turn around and say what everybody was doing.
That's exactly right. They had to destroy my credibility.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Well, of course
I lost all my business ventures. I was totally humiliated. My mother grieved herself to death. I lost my mother. And that's a sad thing. And that's a hard thing. Anyway, so I fought back. I refused to be put in prison for something I didn't do. And I told myself there will be a come a day, God will give a day, that these people will regret that they ever heard my name. And I told Judge Malani at sentencing, sir, you are about to make the biggest mistake of your judicial career, sending me to prison for something I didn't do. And he called me a bandit and a thief without a gun coming in a 7-Eleven store, and oh man, just all kinds of horrible things. But I ate it and choked up. And then came the death sentence, 28 years to 64 years. In fact,
For what would they give you that much time for? What was the
conviction, Gary?
pardon me?
Was this a first-time conviction? I mean,
Yes.
I don't mean to put you on the spot, but
Yes.
so you never been convicted of a crime in your life, and they gave you 28 to 64.
Well,
It sounds like Judge Lane.
Back years ago, I had a problem in Indiana, but that sentence was vacated, and I was ordered released by 5 judges and a master commissioner. So basically, I had no convictions or anything.
Right. That's right.
And I was young.
okay.
And the thing of it is, coming to Nevada, I respected Nevada. I paid my taxes. In 2008, I made $120 million that year, and I paid tax. I owed taxes of $11 million. I was able to get the IRS to work with me, and I've always paid my taxes, and Nevada appeared to be good to me, but all these group of grifters just started sucking me into this sand traps. When I found out about Ferdinand Marcos's money and these homes that I bought built with stolen Filipino money, I didn't want no part of that. So I sued them in federal court. Next thing you know, they break in my door, they arrest me, they take my computers, they take everything. And Vinny, I want you to know they found nothing, absolutely nothing. No forged deeds in my possession, no documents on my computers or anything of the sort to implicate me in such a thing. Now,
So there was no evidence to that.
that is exactly right.
That you got.
For my stoppage on my own checks of my own money on a defunct corporation, Judge Malani gave me 2 4 to 10 years consecutive for that. In addition to that, Judge Malani continued on to give me 4 to 10 years consecutive sentences on all kinds of other charges of forgery of this and attempted theft of that. It was all bogus. And
They couldn't prove any of that, right?
Oh, I could,
this-
but he
this was
denied.
a
Here's
jury
what
trial?
happened. I had 24 witnesses come to testify for me, credible witnesses. I had a handwriting expert named Claudia Baker, Antonio Claudia Baker. She's a graphologist, a professional court witness. She writes in graphology for the FBI. She's a professional court witness. She prepared a video. She was going to come to testify, and she was going to tell who did the forgeries. And they denied her to testify because the attorney that was being prosecuted by the DA at the same time I was, he just happened to fail to file a witness list and a witness brief. And so the state stood up and said, Your Honor, we want to make an oral motion. Mr. Walters putting the state at an unfair disadvantage. We move to strike all of his witnesses, all of his rebuttal witnesses, all of his evidence, And we moved that he's putting the state in an unfair disadvantage. And Judge Villani goes, granted.
See, Vin.
Are you kidding me?
Wait, that's
Yes.
exactly, well, his lawyer didn't file a paper, but that's exactly what they did with me. I had 29 witnesses, they allowed me 3. See, so,
Yeah.
Now, I
Yeah,
chimed in, Anthony,
Mhm.
and I said, Your Honor, I want a Ferretta hearing. I want to be able to represent myself. This man cannot possibly represent me. I don't know what's wrong with this man, but this man is not, he's not done any due diligence or anything. On February the 9th, he admitted that he never even looked at the grand jury transcripts. He admitted ineffective counsel. We got it on video. So I'm suing him, and the attorney that came to represent him the day he didn't show up in court, Garrett Ogata, came to court and told Judge Villani, he says, I'm here to represent Mr. Walters today because Robert Weatherford, his lawyer, is across town at another hearing on a child support issue. Robert Weatherford was in jail trying to get out on bond. So Garrett Ogata knowingly told the lie to the court, and he could have caused me to get a new trial right there 8 years ago, and he didn't do it. He lied. So he's liable. And besides that, I hired his law firm, not Robert Weatherford. Robert Weatherford just happened to be there the day that I hired Garrett Ogata's law firm, and I have a contract out of these guys. I paid them a lot of money, and plus they stuck me for a lot of money too. And they did nothing, absolutely nothing. And when they come to court and I tried to chime in, Judge Villani said to me, I'm going to gag you, have the bailiff take you out of here, and I'm going to hold this hearing without you if you don't shut up. I said, Your Honor, what other way do I have to defend myself? This is not right. I can prove here today that I never did any of those forgeries, and the 24 witnesses that are sitting outside in the hallways are very credible people, and they want to come and testify. I'm denying them. None of them's testifying. And you're not going to say anything to the jury about it, or I'm going to gag you and we'll hold this trial without you. Do you understand, Mr. Walters? And that's what happened. So here comes an innocent, blinded jury, seeing a man sitting there with no witnesses, no evidence, doesn't know that the judge has denied everything. What would you do but convict him?
Yes, well,
And that's when they left it up to Villani to give me the
convincing
sentence.
trial.
And Villani gave me a death sentence, 28 years to 64 years.
now, what did he have to do with those HOAs? Did he live in any of those places or anything?
My understanding, he was behind it with the DA, yes. And Dave Rogers, incidentally, was asked to leave from the U.S. Justice Department. They were going to prosecute him. So he came up with a scam to the public that he just had a newborn baby and he was going to go spend time with him. And that's why he was resigning as the DA. But guess what? He immediately left there and went to work for the police association as their lawyer.
Okay.
Okay.
We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back with more.